What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero. You're listening to the Republic Broadcasting Network, where you'll find out what the Fukushima's going on.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show, hour number 3. Got a bunch of people waiting on the phone lines, and I got a reader email basically pointing out that if we do get into a nuclear war and we're all dead, we cannot move forward. Good point. Very good point. All right, Linda in Massachusetts, aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hi, Mike. Well, I got a little ray of hope from what Putin is saying, and people around the world are hearing. I have 2 paragraphs from a press conference of Putin today, if I could read them.
Yes, real quick.
Okay, great. He was in a press conference with the Italian counterpart, and he was asked for his view in regard of the U.S. airstrike on Syria. His response revealed not a bashing of the new U.S. administration, but the rivalries of the U.S. deep state military financial interests that potentially pressured President Trump into the airstrike on Syria. Should anything really go wrong, Trump is who they will blame, he said. He further warns of his intelligence agencies reporting more chemical attacks that will be, so he says this. This is the second paragraph. I said this is strongly reminiscent of the events of 2003 when the representatives of the United States and the Security Council, UN, have demonstrated allegedly chemical weapons discovered in Iraq. Then began a clear campaign in Iraq, and it ended with the destruction of the country. Growth of terrorist threat and the emergence of ISIS on the international stage, no more, no less, said Putin.
Yes.
I've listened to a lot of videos of Assad also being interviewed, and, at least we're dealing with people who are telling different points of view to the rest of the world. And, maybe there will be something that's, what I felt about the strike, as angry as I am, betrayed. I feel it was illegal internationally and constitutionally, but it was open. And it kind of reinforced to people to kind of look into this more, find out that the U.S. has been forwarding this covertly, and to me, in a more disgusting way, by giving support to the terrorists and the jihadists.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all I have to say, Michael. I just wanted to report that to you.
Well, Putin is a very, very smart man. He's grown up in the world of real politics, and that definitely gives him an advantage. And certainly, everyone's trying to scream Russia's fault, but remember, every time the U.S. has tried to push a country to war, Putin has stepped down and said, let's make this go away. I mean, he did that the first time that the U.S. was saying Assad was gassing his own people, and Putin went over to Syria and convinced Assad to surrender all of his chemical weapons and calm that down, and which is why going on back and saying Assad is still gassing his people is ridiculous. He gave up all of his weapons. Israel's still insisting that Assad has built a secret sarin gas factory in his kitchen or some such nonsense as that. Anyway, Linda...
Awesome. Well, can I say one more quick thing, Michael?
Real quick.
When I did a little bit of looking into the UN report from 2013, it does say in there that it was not the civilians that were, targeted. It was Assad's military. So the preposterous notion that they would still be fighting for him 4 years later after being gassed by him, it's just all preposterous, and that's all I wanted to say.
Well, it's preposterous to say Assad would gas his own army. There's no point in doing that, and that's why.
And that is what the UN. Well, yeah, that's what the UN said.
Yeah, but what the corporate media said was that Assad was gassing his own civilians. And again, they've been caught in another lie. All right, Linda, got to let you go. Going to switch over to Mary in Connecticut. Aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hi, Michael. This was, you woke me up to, I always was very supportive of Israel. But you were mentioning how we gassed our own people in Warsaw and burned them. So I went back and spent hours looking up more information because I was totally indoctrinated a couple of years ago. And basically, I saw a bunch of different videos, some government made, some FBI made, and one was local people that were interviewed, and they said how social workers went there, they never found anything. But another one was, the name of it is an ADL caused Holocaust, question mark. And basically it found out, Janet Reno kept saying during the questionings that she went back and referred to some very high source. And that very high source, I forgot his name, but evidently he was someone that was a deprogrammer, and he didn't have a degree in psychology or an MD or a master's or any degree in anything related. And basically he had connections to the ADL and to Mossad. And he was trying to claim that these people were dangerous. You have to go in and act, and they had suicide ideas because the people that were there, they were a group since 1935, and they never had suicide ideas, and they never abused their kids. And
yeah, it was a complete lie. What happened in short, and I don't want to spend a lot of time on Waco, in short, the BA...
No, but it wasn't just our government. We're being led astray by certain groups.
Yes, we certainly are, but basically... BATF back at the time had a string of public relations disasters, kicking down wrong doors, and murdering innocent homeowners to the point where there was serious talk in Congress of revoking BATF's police authority. And so the BATF wanted a big success story to have in the media to say, see, we're doing a good job, we're doing an essential job, don't take away our authority, don't take away our budget. And so they just decided they were going to raid this church in Waco, Texas, because it is Texas, and the church basically made their money by buying, repairing, and selling used firearms. And it may seem a little odd for a church, but it was all very legal. Mary, let me talk. It was all completely legal. In fact, when Koresh had taken over, he discovered the former head of the church had actually had a meth lab on the premises, and he called up the local police and said, I found a meth lab here, please come and take it away, and they did. And they were actually very friends. The local police were friends with the Branch Davidians and Koresh. They used to go out shooting together. Koresh would bring guns, the police would bring ammunition, and they'd have a really good time. And BATF decided they were going to raid the church, claim the weapons were illegal, and they were going to get lots of positive newspaper coverage. Unfortunately, their downfall was inviting the reporters to go along on the raid because one of them was friends with Koresh, and he called up and said, do you know the BATF is coming to raid you? So the BATF shows up, Koresh opens the front door, they shoot him in the groin, and it went downhill from there.
Oh, I know.
And so basically the only way the government could save face and avoid embarrassment was to gas the church with a banned chemical weapon and then set fire to the place. And that was basically what they did.
But the point also is that it's ADL is supposed to...
No, Mary. The point... Okay, we're going to drop Mary here. Thank you very much. The point here is that the U.S. is going around saying that any government that gasses children to death with chemical weapons needs to be bombed. Well, the U.S. government has itself used a banned chemical weapon on the women and children who were in that church in Waco, Texas. And that's why they are being hypocritical. That's why they lack the moral standing to pass judgment on anybody else on this planet. Alrighty, Mo in Florida. Aloha, Mo. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hello, Michael. You got the best information going out there. You really do. I think you say it like it is.
Thank you.
And I think you're a good-hearted person, Michael.
Thank you.
You and well, it's deserved.
It rubbed off on me from Claire.
Yes, and I think Ron Paul rubbed off on all of us, right?
Yeah, I certainly think so. Before we go any further, I want to do a quick shout-out to our on-air affiliates, just now rejoining the network. So, Mo, what is on your mind today?
Nothing. I just love your program because it's good to hear honesty. You know, you may not be right 100%, but you're close, and you call it from the truth. And I just couldn't help but realize, you know, when you listen to Ron Paul and, you know, that end of things, and I campaigned for him, you know, you just see the contrast between truth and falseness. I mean, first, you don't harm anybody that's not harming you. It's just basic principles. The guy, you know, I'm not religious. I was raised Catholic, but I'm not religious just like you. But, you know, you start wondering, you know, instead of Jesus, what would Jesus do? What would Ron Paul do? Do you think Ron Paul would fire missiles without investigating? Or, I mean, this is the problem. I think they got to Trump's ego because he is bombastic, and he's got a big ego.
Yes.
And, you know, you want to be a wimp? You want to be a wimp, Trump? You're going to be a wimp. You're going to be a wimp. Fire these missiles. You're going to be a wimp. And I think, you know, all that visions he's got a patent taking over the world. I think they got to him. The guy. The only thing can solve salvation for Trump is for him to admit, and I don't think this is possible. It's like you say, I think he's jumped the shark. I think he could admit he got screwed. He got bad information.
No, they're still out there. They're still out there trying to say we know Assad gassed his own people. They're not going to back off because government is very much like a religion. It operates only as long as the supplicants believe in what they're being told. And even though the government has because the government already has a huge credibility problem, they can't admit to a lie or a hoax, or it makes things worse. And yet, every time they do another one of these, it's only accelerating the loss of credibility. And I find it amazing that anybody could look at that story, that at this particular time in history, when Assad is on the verge of victory, that he would do something as stupid as gas his own people without any kind of a reason to do so. It just did not make any sense. And whether Trump got threatened or whether he got conned or whether he was simply lied to by those around him, it almost doesn't really matter. The image of the United States of America and the image of the Trump presidency that has gone out to the world this week is not a very positive one. It is of a government that shoots first and thinks later, and that makes the world much more dangerous.
Humility, Michael, humility. That's what Ron Paul has, but you have too. Humility. Humility is what the whole thing, that non-hubris stuff, is what we need. And that's what Trump's fatal flaw was. They saw he had clay feet, and I believe they played on his ego. But I love your show, and I'll listen to your comments. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, sir. And yes, I have more humble than any 10 other men you're ever going to meet. All righty, let's see. We're going to go to Fred in Missouri. Aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Fred? Hey, Michael, how you doing?
I'm doing okay.
Listen, I just started probably listening to your show about 4 months ago, and I just can't tell you. I look forward. I listen to your program normally in the morning, the replay, and I've been listening to John Stadtmiller when he was doing shows with Alex Jones years and years ago. So I know John personally. So, but anyways, I think, wow, what a great show you have. And I've got maybe a statement here, but I also have a couple questions about where you get your information.
Okay.
My opinion is I've been involved in politics since my daughter was born. That's going back to Ross Perot days. Heavily involved. And Donald Trump was the first person I voted all these years, but he was the first person I ever voted for that actually won the election. So I was ecstatic when he got elected.
Yes.
My first indication that he was on the wrong track is looking at the people he was appointing to different sections of the government.
Yep.
A lot of red flags were going up then. And then I looked at when he was back in the Paul Ryan bill, which was horrendous. Didn't do anything. It didn't repeal anything. It was just as bad, except the only fines we'd be paying would be to, instead of the government, the insurance companies. Well, that's a good bill. So red flags are going up there that he was actually behind a bill that he never read. Big red flags. My greatest disappointment is the fact that he may have voted against the TPP. He might have been putting up a wall up, on the borders or whatever. That doesn't mean anything to me. That didn't take any thought on his point whatsoever. What really struck me when my brother called me and said, "Did you hear what Donald Trump just did in Syria?" I was I was going, oh my God, I'm, maybe not that smart of a person, but I'm going, how stupid is this man?
Yes.
And I'm going, oh my God, it's like, this guy's incredibly stupid. How did you, just even being a wise person with common sense, you wouldn't go out and attack somebody without documentation that this actually happened. And he went out there and put us all at risk. He put us he failed the biggest test he's ever had.
Yes.
He failed the test with the Paul Ryan, and then he failed the biggest test. We gave him the keys to the nuclear, and when everybody says, well, he still did some good things, I'm sorry. That doesn't mean a damn thing if it's all in ashes of nuclear fallout.
I agree with you. I absolutely agree with you. I absolutely agree with you. And we're seeing that a lot of Trump's early moves to implement some of his campaign promises are already starting to be rolled back. Now the GOP has yanked the funding for his border wall from the current House GOP budget. And so they're already pushing the country back to the way the elites want it to be, and to heck with what the American people or even Donald Trump want. And I'm disappointed in Trump intensely. I still think he's better than Hillary would have been. But this all goes back to the observation I made about him all the way back before he even won the nomination. He spent his life in the world of business. He sees the entire world as a business operation, and he's dangerously naive about the world of D.C. politics, as dangerously naive as Jimmy Carter was. Carter was completely unprepared, was completely blindsided by some of the dirty tricks they were pulling on him as president. And the same thing is obviously happening with Donald Trump. Donald Trump needs to shake up that White House. He's got to start getting rid of these neocons. He has to know they lied him into committing a war crime, and he's got to be angry about that.
Well, you know what? I have second thoughts about that also. I mean, he has people like Alex Jones and all these other people that have been telling him, and he's never mixed up the fool there. He's just got people in that will stab him in the back yesterday 10 times, over. I think there's something else going on there. I really don't think, he should have gotten rid of so many people. But, I don't know if he's that naive, because I've heard all his, like for the last 15 years, the things he's said. He's pretty informed on a lot of issues. I just have a question whether or not he's that naive, because this is extremely naive. And just a judgment to say to people that, well, he gassed, Assad gassed his people. Me as just a person with some common sense would say, well, I want to see proof. I would say that.
Yeah.
And for him not to say that just shows me that he really shouldn't be where he's at.
Well, he was shown these photos of the kids and the decontamination, and he was told that's the proof. And what he should have done is say, I need the provenance that these photos are really, in fact, of what you're telling me, because we've seen outdated photos used before, photos from the wrong location, and Trump dropped the ball. He trusted people that really were not worthy of his trust, and he's going to pay the price for that. He just bombed his second term in office.
I guess what I'd like to say is the fact he goes, you're the lying media, and I'm going to ask you, Michael, when is the last time the government told us the truth? None.
Yeah, well...
So why would Donald Trump be so naive to say that the people who he's relying on information on, that they're going to lie to him? The government never tells the truth, and they've got, like you say, he may be naive or something, but I'm saying, I'm sorry, you failed the biggest test, the protection of the American people, protection of our soldiers, protection of our military.
All right. Well, I'm going to have to...
God knows where we're going to go here.
All right, Fred, I'm going to have to let you go. We got to take a break for commercials, and we'll be right back. And aloha, America. Welcome back to the show here. We're going to take a call from Werner in New Brunswick. Aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Good evening, Mike.
Good evening.
And, I haven't called there for quite a while, but tonight I listened there about the issue about chemical warfare and the accusations that have been brought forward against President Assad.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, Donald Trump, he went off half-cocked. He should have had those information, those accusations, he should have had them verified from different sources, not just only from one or two single sources.
Mm-hmm.
But it came to my mind about, in the Bible there, the Lord said about the scribes and Pharisees, you choke at a gnat and swallow a camel. And in regard to chemical warfare, when we look at the track record of the United States military, in the Second World War, the use of incendiary phosphate, and most of the victims were civilians.
Yes.
The nuclear bombs, Hiroshima and Nagasaki, most of the victims were civilians. Then in Vietnam, nobody can tell me that they did not know what kind of lasting effects the massive use of 2.45T, the defoliant, would have on the civilian population and the people that had to make a living.
Oh, they knew how dangerous it was here because Agent Orange was actually developed here at the University of Hawaii, and there was an accident in which some students were killed. So, yeah, they knew just how toxic it was. It's based on dioxin.
Yeah, so... And dioxin is one of the most toxic materials that
yes.
Ever existed, man-made. And so I think it applies to, you choke at a gnat and swallow a camel. How many millions of civilians, lost their lives or got crippled, for the rest of their life?
Well, look at the firebombing of Dresden. No military purpose at all. It was just shock and awe. To tell Germany that the U.S. And the Allies had the political will to commit atrocities like that. Anyway, listen.
But, they brush it off with calling it collateral damage.
Yeah, and that's a horrendous lie. Well, gee, what about, the people into the gas attack? Let's assume that if Assad was going to use chemical weapons, he's using them against the enemy troops, and that means that the civilians are collateral damage. And it's another example of a double standard and hypocrisy by the U.S. government. Anyway, Werner, got to let you go. We're getting short on time, and I'm going to start with Glenn in Philadelphia. I may have to take you into the commercial break. What's on your mind?
Hi, Mike. Calling about the United Airlines thing. We don't want to overlook the original issue that caused the problem, and that is that United Airlines is short on seats. And we, the flying public, can involve ourselves so as to solve this problem for them. When we're booking our vacations coming up for this summer and everything, we should book on other airlines so as to free up some seats so that United doesn't have this problem anymore.
It's already happening. Their stock, the worth of the company dropped by almost $1 billion. People are changing reservations. And, of course, United Airlines is out there. They're mounting a media campaign to smear this guy who got beat up on their plane. And their motto is, fly the friendly skies. So it's turning into a big incident. Now, I don't want to let it be a distraction from the other more important issues. And I'm only mentioning it because they did mount a smear campaign against this doctor who was trying to get to where he needed to be to treat some patients and said, no, I need to be on this flight. And what the United flight attendant should have done was offer financial inducements to other passengers to get them to surrender their seat. And calling the police and just picking somebody at random to be ejected, that's not going to go away anytime soon. Anyway,
their CEO Munoz is going to have the Rhapsody in Blues. That's the song I used for Rhapsody in Blue, I believe. And their CEO Munoz won some industry communications award,
Mm-hmm.
And then he goes on TV and tries to spin doctor and word weasel his way out of it by apologizing for the problem, but not for the other stuff. So,
yeah,
all right, sir, take care.
And the smear campaign is definitely a big mistake. We'll be right back. And aloha, America. Welcome back to the show. And before I take some more phone calls here, a couple of news items here out of the world of immigration and migrants and refugees. Apparently, a migrant camp in France, the Grand Sint migrant camp, has burned to the ground following a massive fight there. Up in Germany, A young man was forced to watch while a machete-wielding refugee raped his girlfriend on a camping trip. So how's that whole thing working out for you there? And that's got to be making the people of California very nervous, because California is now enforcing their new law that is allowing illegal immigrants with criminal records to stay in California. Now, apparently down in Libya, which, like Afghanistan and Ukraine, has been turned into a slime pit by the U.S. intervention, African migrants trying to cross Libya to get to Europe are being taken prisoner and sold as slaves, including sexual slaves, for as little as $200. You didn't have that problem under Gaddafi. All right, take a phone call. Yvonne in New York, aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Yeah, hi. I'm calling about, I don't know if you already talked about this, but Sean Spicer gave a press briefing, and then also Mattis, General Mattis did, and they both made what I thought were really disturbing comments. Like Sean Spicer had said that President Trump, that the reason that he did all this is because of images he saw on TV.
Yes.
And then Mattis, he just went ahead and he said, oh, well, we know Assad did it because doctors saw that chemical weapons were used. Well, if doctors were treating patients and they saw that chemical weapons had been used on the patients, how does that prove who did it?
Well, you're absolutely right. There's a huge, huge hole in there. I mean, they're basically coming from the position that nobody but Assad would use chemical weapons, even though we know the U.S. supplied sarin gas to the rebels there. When Matisse says doctors, they're talking one doctor who's all over the media saying, I know Assad did it. This guy was up on terrorism charges in Great Britain. He kidnapped a couple of journalists. He's with the terrorist groups. And yet, because he's saying what the media wants to be said, he's being held up as the authoritative source. But you're absolutely right. If these people were harmed by chemicals, probably not sarin, because the people handling the bodies weren't wearing gloves, which would be absolutely mandatory if sarin were involved. It doesn't tell you where it came from. Now, Russia and Syria are still saying what happened is that Syria attacked a rebel stronghold, which turned out to be a clandestine storage depot for the chemicals that the rebels have been using on Syria's people. And it blew up, got caught in the wind, and that's what resulted over in Idlib. So there were chemicals and people died, but it wasn't the fault of Assad. It was the fault of the rebels for having these chemicals there in the first place, if you really want to think about it. But in classic politics, nobody cares about the facts or the truth. It's, I want to do this. How can I use this new event to push that agenda along?
And it's you know what else is outrageous, and it bothers me so much because I can't get over how stupid people are. If you ask anybody, like, where is Syria, they'll say, oh, the Middle East. And you're like, oh, where's the Middle East? Oh, it's all by the Middle East. But it's first of all, it's the continent of Asia.
Yes.
Which is pretty darn far away. Okay, the only water near Syria is the Mediterranean. So what are they going to do? Are they going to hop in a boat and, like, sail through the Mediterranean and reach America? It's so ludicrous when people say Assad threatens us. And I'm so upset over this. I'm so upset over it because people that we talk to that support Trump still support him. And they still think that it was a good idea that, oh, yeah, well, Assad is bad, he's a threat. My husband can't get through to anybody. He's a police officer. And all the fellow officers are just, they're all like gung-ho. Like, oh, yeah, kill Assad. And it's just like lunacy. It's craziness. And I don't know, people are buying it. They're believing this. They're believing it. They're believing the nonsense.
Some are. Most are not. I mean, I haven't met anybody in real life here in Hawaii in my travels that is buying the story that Assad is gassing his own people. When they say, oh yeah, Assad gassed his own people, just say, why did he do it? And they can't find that reason for doing it. And you're right, this claim that Assad and Syria are a threat to the United States, no, they aren't. He's not going to get in a rowboat, row across the Atlantic, and attack us. Assad is a threat to the profits of certain oil companies, but I'm sorry, I don't feel that our children should be sent out to be killed and crippled for some oil corporation's bottom line.
Right. I don't know. It's terrible.
Okay, well, thank you for the phone call. We're going to let you go and get some more news in before I take more phone calls. Apparently, ICE agents did a sweep in Washington, D.C., and arrested 82 illegal immigrants from 26 different countries. Now, back out in California, Maxine Waters is demanding that the United States take in 100,000 more Syrian Muslim refugees. And Maxine, how are you going to guarantee that some of these Syrian Muslim refugees aren't very angry with the United States for having been bombing their country for the last 5 years? That's what I would like to know. Okay? Now, as I mentioned earlier in the show, apparently House Democrats, along with more than a few House Republicans, are trying to kill the funding for Trump's border wall, keeping it out of the budget. This is coming from the Hill. So that may go away. And again, I don't think we really need a wall. We just cut off all the financial inducements for illegals to come here. You're not allowed to work without being a citizen or legally allowed to stay here. Not allowed to rent. Not allowed to, you don't get free stuff. You cut that all off, these people are going to stay home. And illegal immigration is already in decline without the wall necessarily being there. So that's a good start right there. I don't know that we need the wall. Cheaper to put crocodiles in the Rio Grande. All right, let's see. Mateus in Canada. Aloha, welcome to the show. What is on your mind?
And trebuchets to fling them back over.
That's true. Or we get the pumpkin chunkin guys.
Right over the crocodiles.
We get the pumpkin chunkin guys out there to get the air cannons and shoot them longest distance, and most bounces gets the trophy.
And whoever gets the best shot of the day gets free food stamp next time that they're illegally in the country. Okay. So remember when Netanyahu was speaking in Congress, and we had this pathetic, embarrassing standing ovation?
Yes.
Okay, so keep that in mind. Now also keep in mind that Congress is promoting and applauding the missiles to Syria.
Yes.
Okay, so there's already like an Israel connection here. And then also keep in mind the other caller a couple of days ago made a very good point that Israel lost an aircraft, most likely, probably that was launched from the Syria base. And it kind of comes together. You've got like a warmongering, control freak, like dictatorship, waging war through what's the motto of Israel? War through deception or something like that.
By way of deception, thou shalt do war. It's a quote from I think it's the Talmud, and it's the motto of the Mossad.
Right. Okay. So there's a good case here to be made that this is actually a retaliation, but a very evil one where you're murdering babies and children to make the excuse for the retaliation.
Well, Israel's never hesitated to do that before. I mean, Israel was willing to murder every single sailor on the USS Liberty to trick the United States into war against Egypt.
Right. I mean, it's just amazing how we're being run by the most vile, bottom of the barrel. But they're not even fully human because they're missing parts of humanity, like empathy and compassion. Like we got only literally retarded development, mentally and spiritually retarded people running our lives.
Yeah, that's a very dangerous situation. Well, the problem is the sociopathic personality feels no guilt. They're very convincing liars because they don't feel any guilt about lying. And that makes them very effective at persuading other people to go along with them. And sociopathic people seek positions of wealth and power and influence as necessary to their self-valuation. And it is a very common pattern. It's a tragic failing in the human psyche. But I think basically it comes down to planet Earth is like this giant septic tank, and the really big chunks are always going to rise to the top.
Yeah, definitely. Remember that chemical weapons pile picture that you talked about yesterday in Syria, in the airfield that was being bombed? And the West is using this as a kind of an excuse of we were going after that pile of supposed chemical weapons.
Yes.
And then you pointed out correctly that it wasn't chemical weapons, it was some other sort of weapon.
Yes.
I'd like to add to this, how ridiculous and absurd to think that the Syrians are so stupid that the place that they pile their chemical weapons is in open air storage, even though even though like 20 meters away is like a concrete barricade to protect from bombing, but they don't bother piling there. They just pile them out in the open. I mean, I'm even suspicious that this isn't just some sort of like high-end photoshopping. Even
no, I don't think it's photoshopping. I think the containers were empty because they basically carry the components for cluster bombs. And but I think they were piled out there in the open because they were empty. If you look at
good point.
If you look
that makes sense. Yeah, empty.
If you look at the airbase through Google Earth, you will see that it is a little run down and dilapidated. Of course, it has been under attack. But there's a lot of trash heaps all over the place. They just pile the stuff up there, and that's really what it was, I think. Okay?
Right. Okay, well, I'm really, I feel like giving up politics. Anarchism is starting to sound appealing. I'm really heartbroken what's happened with Trump. Whatever the reason is, the effect is that we all kind of got a bit duped. Even if that wasn't the plan, even if Trump didn't mean it at the beginning, the end result, the effect, is that we're all getting screwed. And the globalist agenda is going forward, and I kind of want to quit politics. I don't think it can be changed from the top down anymore. I think it can only be changed from the bottom up, and I'm not even sure what that means.
Well, again, we do not advocate violent revolution because that just justifies the government declaring a national emergency and throwing what's left of the Constitution into the shredder. I still think we're looking at a Soviet Union-style collapse of the U.S. government and economy, and we have to be prepared to take care of ourselves, literally off the grid for 3 to 4 months while we form a new republic in this land. So thanks an awful lot. We're going to let you go. And let's see. I'm going to do some news, and then we'll come back to our remaining phone calls. We're getting close to the end of the show here. Now, do you remember a while ago there was a store that was burned down, and there was a note left that was signed from White America, and was obviously a hate crime, and they finally caught the arson. Turned out to be a black guy. Another hate crime hoax. And I'm beginning to think that pretty much all of those hate crimes are hoaxes. And again, go back and ask, what are they trying to accomplish? They're certainly not doing anything to build public support for their point of view, or the point of view that the hate crime is blamed on. That's why so many of them are fake, just like most terrorist attacks are fake. False flags to blame on a third party to make them look bad. When you're looking at a particular group or a particular country, what you do is you say, who benefits from this act? What are they trying to do? And does what I'm being told they just did move that purpose forward or hinder it? And if it hinders it, you're looking at somebody's false flag. Always think very carefully about what you're being told, especially in this day and age when the lies are just hitting the flood stage. Okay, let's see. We're going to go to Christy in New Mexico. Aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
I have questions in my mind about Trump's possible misperceptions. One, did he not know that his base was voting for policies and not the man, in the sense that I don't believe for the core of his people that we're involved in a personality cult. Maybe he's involved in a personality cult. Did he not know that his core is anti-war?
He should have known that, but again, his advisors may have told him that polls are showing the American people will love you if you attack Bashar al-Assad, and he just got a real wake-up call on that one. Right.
The next one is the lying around the war. To me, implicitly, that shows that Trump believes that we're stupid, and that it's okay to foster a false reality. That's where the biggest betrayal to me seems is the lying, and that we wouldn't know. And I question his motto. I think the motto should be Americans first, because now I have questions about what he means by America And the last thing is, I think we should start a movement called Let's Make Politics Illegal.
I like that last one. I definitely like that last one. So I think those of us who are being objective are very disappointed in Donald Trump. I imagine a small group of his supporters were in love with the personality and the man, and they're going to continue to support him, like that caller we had earlier, who's, I'm still 100% behind Donald Trump. Okay, fine, if that's what you want. But I have to be honest here. I'm disappointed in Donald Trump, and whether he got used or lied to by his advisors, or he actually was dumb enough to fall for that Assad gas story. The bottom line is, the end result is, he's harmed the image of the United States around the world. He's harmed the image of himself. He's portrayed his administration as reckless and willing to launch wars based on unproven allegations, and that is going to make other countries around the world, especially the nuclear nations, very, very twitchy around that button, that launch button. And everyone talks about how wacko crazy North Korea's leadership is. Look in a mirror at how our leadership now appears to the rest of the world following this cruise missile attack on the basis of bogus information. That's not the picture of sanity and calm and wise leadership that's being projected to the rest of the world.
Right. Right.
Okay.
He cannot lie to us. That's his big mistake.
Yeah, that is his big mistake.
That's what politicians do.
Well, see, he didn't come into this as a politician. He came in as a businessman, but he's been contaminated by that society. He's being told that the lies are still working, and that in and of itself is yet another lie. Trump needs to clean house and get some advisors in there who are not politically compromised. Got to let you go. Christy will be right back for the final segment of our program after these few words. And aloha, welcome back to the show. Last segment of our program today. Brendan in San Francisco, welcome back to the show. What is on your mind?
Mike, if you look at the grand chessboard and all the plays that are being made, everything is interconnected. The bombing of the Middle East, creating migration, destabilizing countries, and the final piece in the chessboard is collapsing the United States to implement the New World Order. We're the one final piece standing against it. Now,
I take issue with that because because you're proceeding from a false assumption. Russia and China are the two.
Can I make my point? Let me make my point. My point simply is, get all of our troops out of the country, and we know there are sleeper cells in the United States. That's a fact. It's been proven. Hollow out the United States with our troops overseas, and then attack the U.S. to make your final grand play.
Okay.
That's where I see this going.
I disagree. I mean, the United States government, for the most part, with rare exception, is fully on board with globalism and the New World Order. That's why they're allowing the refugees in and the illegal immigrants, and they're definitely following that agenda. It is Russia and China who are the two main obstacles to the New World Order, and that's another reason why they're trying to gin up a war against them. So, Brendan,
China is on board with globalism.
Okay, hang on. We're going to switch over to Nick in Southern California. Nick, what's on your mind?
Aloha, Mike. I actually agree with you on the Russia and China. They are trying to bring a lot of transaction back to the gold standard, and that's actually going to kill the dollar. And I have heard other people say that once the dollar is killed, that's going to stop a lot of the wars. Why I actually called was you covered it right after I called in. And Trump's inner circle, I think, is lying to him.
Yes.
Even the polls that they may be showing him that say, oh, America and your base like the fact that you did this, I think they're lying to him even to that extent. I think he is completely cut off from the reality of what the American people are thinking.
Yeah, I think that may be the case, although if Trump or one of his trusted people are going out on social media, they're going to realize the reaction is not a good one. Certainly, even the corporate media has to report on the reactions by other world leaders. And outside of Theresa May and Angela Merkel and Francois Hollande, the condemnation has been pretty much global for this ham-handed stunt.
I agree, Mike. Thank you for taking my call. And aloha.
Aloha. Thank you very much. All right. No more phone calls. We're out of time here. And the last story here is apparently the FBI has released an interview with Tamerlan Tsarnaev taken before the Boston bombing. And in this interview, he denied any Islamic extremist views, but reported 4 mysterious men tried to contact him 2 years before the bombings. So it's another confirmation that the Tsarnaevs were very much known by the FBI. They were set up as patsies, is what happened. All right, there's the music. Time for me to get out of here. Claire and I have got some shopping to do this afternoon, very important stuff. And we'll be back tomorrow, Wednesday, here on the Republic Broadcasting Network. Please make a point of going out and sharing with everybody the reasons why Assad gassing his own people was a ridiculous story to begin with, and how close we are to ramping up a war that could go nuclear. We're going to lose this one. We'll be back tomorrow. Aloha, America.